I opened our bedroom door and froze. His shirt was on the floor. What I saw next changed everything. I heard the laughter before I saw anything. That's what I remember most. Not the shock, not the betrayal, but the sound of two people laughing in my bedroom while I stood in the hallway of my own apartment, suitcase still in hand. My name is Clara Hayes. I'm 29 years old, and 3 months ago I thought I had my life figured out. I was a marketing manager at a mid-sized tech firm in Seattle. Good salary, great apartment in Capitol Hill, and Ethan, my boyfriend of 4 years, who I genuinely believed was my future. We weren't engaged yet, but we'd talked about it. Hell, we'd looked at rings together just 2 months before everything fell apart. I thought we were happy. I really did. Let me paint you a picture of what my life looked like before that day. Every morning, Ethan would make coffee while I got ready for work. He'd kiss my forehead and tell me I was beautiful, even when I felt like a mess. We'd watch cooking shows on Sunday nights, curled up on our gray sectional sofa. We'd argue about whose turn it was to do dishes, but it always ended in laughter. He remembered my coffee order. He knew I hated cilantro. He'd rub my feet after long days at work. These weren't grand gestures. They were the small things that made me believe in us. Our first anniversary was magical. Ethan took me to this tiny Italian restaurant in Belltown, the kind of place with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. He held my hand across the table and said, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Clara." I believed him. God, I believed every word. Looking back now, I can see the cracks, but when you're in love, you don't look for cracks, you look past them. Like how Ethan started spending more time at the gym, how he'd angle his phone away when texting, how he'd snap at me when I asked who he was talking to, then apologize an hour later with flowers or takeout. "Work stress," he'd say. "Sorry, babe, I'm just overwhelmed." I accepted it. I made excuses for him. I told myself every relationship had rough patches. But the truth was brewing beneath the surface, and I was too in love to see it. The business trip to Portland was supposed to be 3 days. I was presenting a new campaign strategy to a potential client, a startup looking to rebrand. Big opportunity. My boss, Michelle, had personally chosen me to lead the pitch. I spent weeks preparing, mock presentations, data analysis, sleep-deprived nights perfecting every slide. Ethan seemed proud. He told me I'd crush it. He kissed me goodbye at the door and said, "Go show them what you're made of." The presentation went better than expected. The client loved our strategy. They signed on the spot. Michelle pulled me aside afterward and said, "Clara, you just secured us a 6-figure contract. Take tomorrow off. Celebrate." I was buzzing with excitement. I texted Ethan, "We got the client. Coming home early tomorrow. Can't wait to celebrate with you, Red." He didn't respond right away. That should have been my first clue. When he finally replied 2 hours later, all he said was, "Congrats, babe, see you soon." No excitement, no questions, just 5 words. I told myself he was busy, maybe at the gym, maybe out with his brother. I booked an earlier flight home. I wanted to surprise him, maybe grab his favorite Thai food on the way, make it a whole thing. I landed at SeaTac around 2 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. The sky was that typical Seattle gray, low clouds, drizzle in the air. I felt invincible walking through the terminal. My career was taking off. I had a man I loved waiting for me at home. Everything was perfect. Or so I thought. I took an Uber back to our apartment. The driver was chatty, asking about my trip. I told him about the client win, and he congratulated me. I tipped him extra. I remember feeling so light walking up to our building, like I was floating. I unlocked the front door quietly. I wanted to surprise Ethan. The apartment was dim, curtains drawn. His jacket was on the couch. And that's when I heard it. Laughter coming from the bedroom. A woman's voice, light, playful, intimate. Then Ethan's voice, lower, teasing. My heart stopped. I stood frozen in the hallway, my suitcase still clutched in one hand, my keys in the other. For a moment, I thought maybe I was hearing things. Maybe he was watching a movie. Maybe it was the TV. But then I heard her laugh again, and I knew. I knew. My body moved on autopilot. I walked down the hallway, our hallway, the one lined with photos of us, smiling, happy, in love, and I stopped at the bedroom door. It was cracked open, just slightly. I pushed it open. I saw his shirt first. Navy blue, the one I'd bought him for his birthday last year. It was crumpled on the floor next to the bed. Then I saw her. Lena Martinez. My coworker. She worked 2 desks down from me in the marketing department. We weren't close friends, but we were friendly. We'd grab coffee sometimes. She'd help me proofread presentations. She was in my bed, our bed. With Ethan. They didn't notice me at first. They were too wrapped up in each other. I made a sound, I don't even know what it was. A gasp maybe, or a choke. Ethan's head snapped toward the door. His face went pale. Lena scrambled to cover herself with the sheets. And I just stood there. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Clara, Ethan started, his voice cracking. I dropped my suitcase. The sound of it hitting the floor was the loudest thing in the room. What? I couldn't get the words out. What is this? Ethan jumped out of bed, grabbing his jeans from the floor. Clara, wait, it's not what it looks like. I left. I actually left. Because what else do you do when the man you love says the most cliché, insulting line in the history of cheating? It's not what it looks like, I repeated, my voice shaking. You're in bed with Lena, my coworker, in our apartment. What exactly does it look like, Ethan? Lena was scrambling to get dressed, her face flushed. She wouldn't look at me. I'm so sorry, Clara, she mumbled. I didn't mean. Get out, I said. My voice was quiet, too quiet. Lena grabbed her clothes and rushed past me, not meeting my eyes. The front door slammed a moment later. And then it was just me and Ethan. He stood there in his jeans, shirtless, looking at me like a caught animal. How long? I asked. Clara, let me explain. How long? He ran a hand through his hair. A few months. A few months. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. A few months, I repeated slowly. While I was planning our future, while I was working 60-hour weeks to build a life for us, you were sleeping with my coworker. It just happened, Ethan said weakly. I didn't plan it. We ran into each other at that work happy hour in June and… I don't care how it started. My voice was rising now. I care that you did it, over and over, for months, while lying to me every single day. I was going to tell you, he said. I laughed again, it sounded hollow. When, after you moved her in? His silence was answer enough. I felt something inside me crack wide open. All the love I'd felt for this man, all the trust, all the years we'd spent building something, it shattered in that moment. Get out, I said. Clara, this is my apartment too. I said get out. I didn't yell, I didn't scream. I just stared at him with a coldness I didn't know I was capable of. Something in my expression must have scared him, because he grabbed his shirt and his keys and left. The door closed. And I collapsed. I don't remember much about the next few hours. I remember sitting on the floor of the bedroom, staring at the sheets. Her perfume still lingered in the air, something floral, expensive. I remember feeling numb, like my body was there but my mind had floated away. I remember thinking, how did I not see this coming? The gym, the phone, the late nights at work, the distance that had grown between us over the past few months. I'd noticed, of course I'd noticed. But I'd convinced myself it was stress, that we'd get through it, that love was enough. How stupid I'd been. I called my best friend, Jenna, around 7 p.m. She answered on the first ring. Hey, how'd the… He cheated on me. A silence. Then, I'm coming over. She arrived 20 minutes later with wine, tissues, and a fierce look in her eyes. Tell me everything, she said. I did. I told her about coming home early, about the laughter, about opening the door and seeing them together. About Lena, my coworker, someone I'd trusted. Jenna listened without interrupting. When I finished, she pulled me into a hug and said, "You're staying with me tonight, pack a bag." So I didn't argue. I threw some clothes into a duffel bag, grabbed my laptop and charger and left. I didn't look at the bed. I didn't look at the photos on the wall. I just walked out. The next 2 weeks were the darkest of my life. I stayed with Jenna in her studio apartment in Fremont. She gave me her bed and slept on the couch, even though I protested. She made me tea every morning and let me cry whenever I needed to. I called in sick to work. I couldn't face going back, not yet, not when Lena worked 2 desks away. Ethan texted me constantly. "Please talk to me. I'm so sorry. Let me explain. I love you." I blocked his number after the 5th message. But the damage was already done. I couldn't stop replaying everything in my mind. The way he'd looked at her, the way they'd laughed together, the intimacy I'd thought was ours alone. I started questioning everything. Was I not pretty enough, not interesting enough, not enough? Had he ever really loved me, or was I just convenient? Were there others before Lena? The thoughts spiraled. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, feeling like my entire life had been a lie. Jenna tried to help. She'd remind me of my worth. She'd tell me Ethan was the problem, not me. She'd list all the ways I was amazing. But I couldn't hear it, not yet. I kept replaying our relationship in my head, looking for signs I'd missed. Our first anniversary, the Italian restaurant, his hand holding mine. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Clara." Had he meant it, or was it just words? I remembered other things too, small moments I'd overlooked. Like the time I caught him texting someone late at night. When I asked who, he said it was his brother. But his brother didn't text him that often. Or the time he told me he was working late, but when I called his office, his coworker said he'd left hours ago. Or the way he'd started criticizing little things about me. My hair, my weight, the way I laughed. "You used to be more fun," he'd said once, after I'd turned down a night out because I was exhausted from work. At the time, I'd felt guilty. I'd wondered if I was being too uptight. Now I realized he'd been tearing me down, slowly, subtly, making me doubt myself. So when I finally discovered his cheating, I'd blame myself instead of him. It was manipulation, pure and simple. And I'd fallen for it. 2 weeks after the betrayal, I forced myself to go back to work. I couldn't hide forever. I had bills to pay, a career to protect. I walked into the office that Monday morning feeling like everyone was staring at me, like they all knew. Did they? Had Lena told anyone? Had the rumor spread? I kept my head down and went straight to my desk. Lena wasn't there, her desk was empty. I found out later she'd taken a leave of absence. Personal reasons, Michelle told me when I asked. I wondered if she felt guilty, or if she just didn't want to face me. I threw myself into work. It was the only thing I could control. I took on extra projects, stayed late, came in early. I didn't want to go back to Jenna's apartment and wallow in my thoughts. Work was a distraction, and I needed it. But even at work, I couldn't escape Ethan. We'd shared so many things: our apartment, our friends, our finances. Oh, wait. Our finances. That thought hit me one evening as I was reviewing my credit card statement. Ethan and I had kept separate bank accounts, but we talked about opening a joint savings account for future expenses, vacations, maybe a down payment on a house one day. But we'd never actually done it, had we? I pulled up my banking app and scrolled through my accounts. Checking, savings, credit card. Everything looked normal. But then I noticed a small charge I didn't recognize. $250, labeled JS Transfer Shared Account. I frowned. I didn't have a shared account. I clicked on the transaction for more details. And that's when I saw it. Account name, Ethan Ross and Clara Hayes Joint Savings. Account number, 3827. My blood ran cold. I didn't authorize this. I'd never signed anything, never agreed to open a joint account. My hands were shaking as I called my bank. Hi, I'm calling about a charge on my account, a transfer to a joint savings account I didn't open. The representative pulled up my information. Let me check. Yes, I see the account. It was opened 3 months ago. Joint holders are Ethan Ross and Clara Hayes. I didn't open that account, I said slowly. I never signed any paperwork. Silence on the other end. Then, ma'am, according to our records, the account was opened using your social security number. I can send you copies of the authorization documents. Please do. I hung up and sat there numb. Ethan had opened a bank account in my name. Without my knowledge, without my consent. Using my social security number. That was fraud, identity theft. My shock turned to anger, then clarity. This wasn't just cheating, this was financial betrayal. And I wasn't going to let him get away with it. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Nguyen. Jenna had recommended her, a family law attorney with a reputation for being fierce and thorough. I met with her that afternoon in her office downtown. The space was clean and professional. Steel desk, tall windows overlooking Elliott Bay. Everything was organized and calm. I felt anything but calm. I told her everything: the cheating, the joint account, the unauthorized use of my social security number. Patricia listened carefully, taking notes. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Clara, you have clear grounds for financial fraud. This is identity theft, fraudulent misuse of financial information under federal statute 18 U.S.C. section 1028A. What Ethan did is a federal crime. My stomach dropped. A crime. Yes, he used your social security number without authorization to open a financial account. That's illegal. And depending on how much money he's moved through that account, the penalties could be severe. I stared at her. What do I do? First, we gather evidence: bank statements, authorization documents, any texts or emails between you and Ethan about finances. Don't confront him yet, don't warn him, just collect everything you can. She slid a business card across the desk. Second, we file a police report. I have a contact at the Seattle PD who specializes in financial fraud cases. We'll open an official investigation. And then we let the law handle it. She paused, her expression softening slightly. I know this is overwhelming, but you're doing the right thing. Men like Ethan rely on their victims staying quiet. Don't give him that power. I left her office with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in weeks. Ethan thought he could cheat on me and steal from me and get away with it. He was wrong. I spent the next 3 days gathering evidence. I downloaded every bank statement from the past year. I pulled up old emails and texts. I made copies of everything. The joint account Ethan had opened, he'd been transferring money into it every month. Small amounts at first, $200 here, $300 there, then larger sums. In total, he'd moved over $8,000 from my account into the joint account. And then transferred most of it out again. To where, I didn't know yet. But Patricia's investigator was looking into it. I also found something else. Texts between Ethan and Lena. I'd managed to log into Ethan's iCloud account using an old password he'd never changed. I know, technically not legal, but I didn't care at that point. The messages were damning. Ethan, asterisk, Clara's working late again, you free tonight? Lena, asterisk, always for you face blowing a kiss. Ethan, asterisk, can't wait to get out of here. Just a few more months and we'll have enough saved. Lena, asterisk, I still feel bad about using her money. Ethan, asterisk, she won't notice. She's too busy with work. I read those texts over and over. They'd been planning to leave, together, using money Ethan had stolen from me. And Lena had known about it the whole time. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to Patricia. She called me an hour later. Clara, this is gold. This proves intent. Ethan wasn't just stealing from you, He was planning to use your money to start a life with his mistress. This strengthens your case significantly. What's next? I asked. We filed the police report. Tomorrow morning, I'll go with you. The police station was cold and sterile. We met with Detective Sarah Alvarez, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. I told her everything, showed her the evidence, the bank statements, the texts, the forged authorization documents. She listened carefully, occasionally asking questions for clarification. When I finished, she nodded. Ms. Hayes, I'm opening a formal investigation. Case number 2251-43, identity theft and financial fraud. We'll need to interview Mr. Ross and Ms. Martinez. It may take a few weeks to build the case, but based on what you've shown me, you have a strong foundation here. She paused. I know this is difficult, but you're doing the right thing. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. It was official now, there was no going back. Word spread fast. Within a week, Ethan found out about the police investigation. He called me from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Clara, what the hell? His voice was panicked, angry. The cops showed up at my work asking about a bank account. What did you do? I kept my voice calm. I reported the fraud. Ethan, you stole from me. I didn't steal. We're together. It was our money. We're not together, and it wasn't our money. You forged documents using my social security number. That's a federal crime. A silence. Then, you're really going to do this. Ruin my life over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped. You cheated on me with my coworker. You stole thousands of dollars. You lied to me for months, and now you're calling it a misunderstanding. Clara, please, I'm sorry. I'll pay you back. Just drop the charges. No. Clara. You thought I'd just let you walk away, didn't you? That I'd be too hurt or too embarrassed to fight back. But you were wrong, Ethan. You messed with the wrong woman. Dice hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt powerful. For the first time since that awful day, I felt in control. 3 weeks later, everything came crashing down around Ethan. The police investigation confirmed what I already knew. He'd fraudulently opened a joint account using my social security number, transferred over $8,000 from my personal account, and planned to use that money to move in with Lena. He was charged with identity theft and financial fraud. Lena wasn't charged criminally, but she faced consequences of her own. Our company's HR department launched an internal investigation after Patricia sent them a formal complaint. Turns out, office romances weren't explicitly forbidden, but engaging in financial fraud with a coworker's partner? That was an ethics violation. Lena was quietly let go. Terminated for cause, the official statement said. And Ethan, his boss, who happened to be connected to someone in my professional network, found out about the charges. Ethan worked in sales at a financial services firm. Identity theft and fraud charges, career suicide. He was fired within days. I heard through mutual friends that he'd moved back in with his parents, that he was struggling to find work, that Lena had left him once the money ran out and the charges hit. I wish I could say I felt vindicated, that I reveled in his downfall. But mostly I just felt empty. Not sad, not angry, just done. I decided to confront him one last time. Not for closure, not for an apology, but because I needed to say my piece face to face. We met at a coffee shop in Ballard, neutral territory. Patricia advised me to bring someone with me, so Jenna came along and sat at a nearby table. Ethan looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes. He'd lost weight. Good. Thanks for meeting me, he said quietly. I didn't respond, just waited. Clara, I'm sorry. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but I never meant for it to go this far. You never meant to get caught, I corrected. There's a difference. He flinched. You stole from me, Ethan. You used my identity to commit fraud. You planned to run off with my money and start a new life with someone else, and you thought I'd never find out. I panicked, he said weakly. I didn't know what else to do. You could have been honest. You could have broken up with me like an adult. But instead, you lied and stole and betrayed me in every way possible. Tears filled his eyes. I know, I'm so sorry. I stared at him, this man I'd loved. This man I'd trusted with my heart, my home, my future. He looked pathetic now, small. And I realized I didn't love him anymore. I didn't even hate him. I just didn't care. I hope you figure out your life, Ethan, I said quietly, but you're not my problem anymore. I stood up and walked out. I didn't look back. 6 months later, my life looked completely different. I'd moved out of the apartment we'd shared and into a beautiful one-bedroom in Fremont. It was smaller, but it was mine. Legally mine, no shared leases, no joint accounts, just me. I'd redecorated it exactly how I wanted. Soft blues and grays, plants on the windowsill, a reading nook with a vintage armchair. It felt like home. At work, I'd been promoted. Michelle recognized how hard I'd been working and offered me a senior marketing manager position with a significant raise. You've earned it, Clara, she'd said. Your work has been exceptional. I'd also started freelancing on the side, building a portfolio, making connections, planting seeds for something bigger. 2 months ago, I officially launched my own marketing consultancy. Hayes Marketing Solutions. It was small, just me and a few contract designers, but it was growing. I'd already signed 3 clients, including that startup I'd pitched back in Portland, the one that had led to me coming home early and discovering Ethan's betrayal. Funny how life works. The worst day of my life had set me on a path to something better. I still thought about Ethan sometimes, about what we'd had, about what I'd lost. But I realized I hadn't lost anything real. I'd lost an illusion, a fantasy, a version of him that never actually existed. The real Ethan was a liar, a thief, a coward. And I was better off without him. I'd also learned something important. I didn't need someone else to complete me. For years, I'd built my identity around being part of a couple. Ethan and Clara, we, us. But now it was just me. And that was enough. I met someone recently, not a romantic interest, just a friend, a fellow entrepreneur I'd connected with at a networking event. Her name was Maya. She'd gone through her own betrayal a few years ago, similar story, different details, and we bonded over our shared experiences. It's wild how much stronger you become after something like that, she said over coffee one afternoon. I nodded. I never would have started my own business if Ethan hadn't cheated. I was too comfortable, too scared to take the risk. So, in a weird way, he did you a favor. I laughed. I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, I guess he did. We talked for hours that day, about business, about life, about healing. And I realized I was happy. Not in the way I'd been happy with Ethan. That happiness had been dependent on someone else. Fragile, conditional. This was different. This was solid, rooted in who I was, not who I was with. 3 weeks ago, I got a message on LinkedIn. From Lena. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Lena Martinez, * Clara, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted to apologize. What I did was unforgivable. You trusted me and I betrayed that trust in the worst way possible. I've been in therapy trying to work through why I did what I did, and I'm realizing I have a lot of my own issues to deal with. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. You deserved so much better from both of us. I read it twice. Then I deleted it without responding. Some apologies are too little, too late. And some people don't deserve a place in your life, even for closure. Last night I was sitting in my apartment, working on a proposal for a new client. The city lights twinkled outside my window. Soft music played in the background. And I felt peaceful. I'd been through hell. I'd been betrayed, stolen from, humiliated. But I'd survived, I'd fought back, I'd rebuilt. And I'd come out stronger. People always ask me, do you regret the time you spent with Ethan? And the answer is no. Because those 4 years taught me things I needed to learn. They taught me what I wouldn't tolerate, what I deserved, what real love should look like. They taught me that I was capable of more than I thought, that I could survive heartbreak and come out the other side. They taught me that I didn't need someone else to validate me, that I was enough on my own. So, no, I don't regret it. But I'm glad it's over. Last month, I ran into Ethan's brother at the grocery store. He looked uncomfortable when he saw me, started to walk the other way. But I stopped him. Hey, Marcus. He turned surprised. Clara, hi. How are you? I'm good. Look, I just want to say I'm sorry about everything. What Ethan did was. It's okay, I interrupted. I've moved on. He nodded, relieved. I heard you started your own company. That's amazing. Thanks, it's been a lot of work, but I love it. We chatted for a few more minutes. Small talk, nothing deep. But as I walked away, I felt lighter. I'd spent so many months carrying anger and hurt, but somewhere along the way, I'd let it go. Not because Ethan deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. If you're reading this, or rather, if you're listening to this, and you've been through something similar, I want you to know something. Betrayal feels like the end of the world. It feels like you'll never recover, like you'll never trust again, like you'll never be whole again. But you will. It won't happen overnight. It'll be messy and painful and exhausting. But one day, you'll wake up and realize the hurt has faded, that you're stronger than you were before. That you didn't just survive, you thrived. Ethan's thought he'd broken me. He thought I'd crumble, that I'd beg him to come back, that I'd forgive him and pretend it never happened. But he was wrong. He didn't break me, he freed me. Sometimes betrayal isn't the end. Sometimes it's the beginning of your real story. And mine, it's just getting started. If you've ever faced betrayal and turned it into power, share your story in the comments. You never know who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories of resilience, justice, and redemption. Hit that bell icon so you never miss an upload. Thank you for listening.